Hey, welcome back to Gimping with Corey, where we talk about my life after cancer. My name is Corey. I was diagnosed with bone cancer at the age of 24, and today I thought I'd do watercolor as I explain what happened between when I was diagnosed and when I had my first surgery. So I was diagnosed on a Wednesday, and the following Thursday I had the surgery. The turnaround time was insane. I had a lot of appointments in between those 8 days, but the two big important appointments were the medical oncology appointment to see if the cancer had spread to other parts of my body, and the orthopedic appointment that was going to help determine basically what the rest of my life would look like. Let's move on to the PET scan. So the PET scan started not well. What you do is to determine if your cancer has spread to other parts of your body, you go get this thing called a PET scan done. Essentially, they want you to fast, and they don't want you to get any carbs for 24 hours before the scan. And what they'll do is they want your blood sugar between a certain level, and they put you in a machine and they inject you with some dye that has certain stuff in it that when you go on the machine, it radiates you with radiation. And if you have tumors in your body that are cancerous, those tumors will eat up the stuff that they gave you. And so my oldest sister at the time, she lived near me, and she was kind enough to go with me to the appointment. And we get to the appointment, and I can feel my blood sugar is low. I am so hangry at this point because I haven't had any carbs in the last 24 hours. I can feel that my blood sugar level is low. So they test my blood sugars to see if I'm within the allowed range. And they're so low, the technician looks at me and says, I should be calling the emergency room right now. Your blood sugar level is so low. And I look at my older sister, and we both knew a type 1 diabetic, and we knew that really all they're going to do is give me some sugar. So I asked for a juice box. I said, just give me a juice box, I'll be fine. But it was heartbreaking because drinking that juice at that time would invalidate the test. The hospital gives you a nurse navigator once you're formally diagnosed with cancer. And the lady was a saint. She actually knew the technician. I called her and said, this is what's going on. I'm panicking because later that afternoon, this appointment was early in the morning. Later that afternoon, I was supposed to get my results to find out whether or not the cancer had spread to other parts of my body. And obviously that's a huge appointment. So she calls the guy and she chews him out. She chews the technician out and basically tells him, what does she have to do in order to do this? You are going to fit her in this afternoon. So he gets off the call and he's like, okay, we were able to shift the schedule around a little bit. I'm going to have you come in this afternoon, go eat a meal, try to get your blood sugar back up, and come back in a few hours. So my sister lived in the area, and she knew of this diner that she enjoyed, and she knew I loved breakfast food, so she took me to this diner. I proceeded to have a fairly large meal with a lot of potatoes and other carbs and stuff to get my blood sugar up. It was tasty, but obviously, it's hard to enjoy it when you're waiting to hear cancer spread to other parts of your body. So what she does in the meantime, we had a little bit of time between when I could get the test done again. We ended up going to the Denver Zoo, and we walked around the zoo and saw animals, and it was really nice break just to try to get my mind off of everything that was going on. But as we're towards the end of walking around, I can feel my blood sugar dropping again, and I kind of look at my sister and tell her I really hope my sugars are high enough when we get there. So we get to the appointment. I think the minimum blood sugar level, glucose level, was 70 in order to get the test done. I think I tested at 72 or 73. I know I barely made it within the allowable range. But luckily, I was able to, get into the machine, and I was so hot the whole time. As soon as the machine started and I felt the radiation coming, it was It was a very sweaty, I think it was almost an hour, sweaty appointment. But we get done. They had to have a quick turnaround time for the results because I had my appointment with the medical oncologist very soon afterwards. And I go into the medical oncologist appointment, and I am the youngest person in the room by far. And that's an awkward feeling because people are just staring at you. And obviously I'm with people similar to my age at the time. And I get into the clinic, and they do a ton of blood work. I get seated in a tiny room with my sister and my boyfriend, and this really nice Eastern European lady comes in, and she's my oncologist. Super nice. And the first thing she says is, look, it's good news. It hasn't spread to other parts of your body. It is showing up in your right leg, as where we can see on other scans, but it looks localized. You have a really great prognosis. We think we can treat this with hopefully just surgery. But I warn you, if your cancer comes back in anywhere, in the leg, in your hip, in your lungs, those are the most likely places it'll come back in. You will have to have extensive chemotherapy to get rid of it. But that was the best news I could have ever hoped for, was that, the cancer hadn't spread to other parts of my body. So I was very excited. I get done with that appointment, that's a relief. The next appointment, I go see the orthopedic oncologist. And this is now the primary method of treatment at this point in time. And what that means is cutting a significant amount of bone out of my body and trying to replace it with a metal prosthetic on the inside. And so I get to the clinic, and it's the longest appointment I think I've ever had with a doctor. I think it was like an hour long, where I sat and talked to the doctor about my options. And really I only had two. There was something called a stem implant, and it looks like this, where it goes up into your femur, and it's just basically a long stick that goes up into your canal. And they replaced, either way, they had to replace my kneecap. My whole knee basically was gone. It was a total knee replacement at the same time. So it was either that or something called a compression implant, which it's basically the same thing, except instead of it being a long stem, you have just a little bit up into your femur, and they nail it completely through. And then what hits the femur is a plate that in a device that puts a ton of pressure up on your femur at all times. And what it does is it makes your bones grow, and it makes your bones stronger over time. But the healing process takes a lot longer, and it's a lot riskier to heal from because there's a lot that can go wrong. And I didn't want to do the stem because the stem makes you weaker over time, and I'm very young. I'm only 24 years old. I know I'm going to want to try to be as active as possible after this. So I decided to get the compression implant, which was a younger device. There's very few people who have it, even who've had this cancer. And this cancer is rare, so there's, hardly anyone I can talk to about it. But those were the decision, that was my decision at the end of the day, because as a younger person, I would need more revision surgeries and more extensive revision surgeries if the implant healed well. If the implant, from the stem wearing out over time, compared to if the other implant healed well initially, I would hopefully have less surgeries over time. So I get done with that appointment, and I have no idea what's to come. I just know I'm about to have a major surgery that is going to alter my life in ways that I could have never expected. I didn't have to go through chemotherapy, but this surgery was something I could have never prepared for. But that's what happened in those 8 days between when I was diagnosed and when I had my surgery. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.